If you want to become financially independent, these are some things that you have to think about early on. What's up guys, David here with Free2Be, and in today's video I want to share with you guys a list of a few things that basically need to be thought of and considered as you work towards financial independence. And they should be thought of and contemplated early on in the early stages of planning, because if you don't, they will actually be a lot harder to resolve and basically get over. The hurdles will just continue to grow for you, and ultimately it could end up causing huge delays on the back end when you're ready to call it a day working that 9 to 5. Now I think that all of these are pretty important, so make sure you stay tuned for this entire video. As always, before I get started, if you are new to my channel, I cover financial literacy here in an effort to track my progress to financial independence, and hopefully by doing that I'm creating valuable content that you can use in your pursuit of financial independence as well. So if you haven't done so already, please take a moment and just click the subscribe button down below. It's a completely free action to take, and it really does help support the channel. And if you're not new and joining me again, thank you for coming back. All right, so setting financial goals shouldn't be anything that's new to someone who's come across this video. If you're watching this video, you're probably already interested in financial independence. You've probably already done some, research into the FIRE movement, what it takes, some things that you should be working on. So I don't think that any of these are particularly new things or new concepts to consider, but I just think that these are probably some of the most important ones. And with that said, let's get right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to make sure you have a plan to get out of bad debt. And bad debt is anything that's basically like a consumer debt that carries a high interest rate that negatively impacts your credit score. So this would be things like personal loans, credit cards, anything like that that you might have been able to avoid, but because of the circumstances, you've accumulated this debt. And the most important part of this is going to be to decrease those interest rates on these debts so that you are able to pay them off faster. Once you do that, then you can basically manage your plan and set your expectations to a realistic goal and eventually overcome that hurdle. But you do need to come up with a plan for the bad debt, because carrying bad debt will ultimately snowball into bigger and bigger issues as you progress through your life. Now, the next thing you want to plan is basically your spending priorities. You need to figure out how much money you are bringing in and figure out what you want to spend on. What are important things that you need to spend your money on? And make sure that you also include on this list a saving item, because saving is really spending. You're spending in yourself for your future. So prioritize what's most important to you when it comes to spending, make a list and track those every single month. And it does kind of sound like you're budgeting, but this is a little bit less detailed than actually creating a budget. This is just kind of figuring out what's important to you, what's upcoming. Is it going to be a car that you want to purchase in the next couple years? It's going to be a house. What is the big ticket item that you want? What is your recurring type of expense that you're going to be spending on? And prioritize this list. And again, it's really important to make sure you have savings on here and keep that at the top of the list, because ultimately, if you are in the pursuit of financial independence, saving should be in the top 3 of spending priorities every single time. Now, the third part of this plan is going to be to create a budget and a plan for retirement. Now, what that entails is basically figuring out exactly how much money you will need to retire at the age that you want to retire in order to carry you for another 30 or 40 or 50 years after that point, and start saving and working towards that. Start putting money aside for your retirement. Start figuring out how to cut costs out of your life so that your overhead is as low as possible once you get there, and come up just with a general retirement plan. And then start investing in retirement accounts. Retirement accounts sponsored by work, or even if you're self-sponsoring them, are really important and will really help your money grow in a way where taxes won't impact them too much until you're ready to start taking from those contributions later down the road. But the most important part of this is to plan, have a general sense of timing of when you want to retire, when the goal is for you to call it quits from your 9 to 5. Come up with that plan, come up with the number, and then figure out what your budget is going to be from that point on. And I know for some people that might seem like it's, years and years away, but it's really important to start thinking about that as early as possible. Now, the next step in planning is to think about your future. What is your future going to look like? If you plan to have children, you have to start thinking about what that's going to look like and how that's going to impact your finances once you do have kids. Kids do cost a lot of money. There's education costs, clothing costs, daycare costs. There's a lot of factors that you have to consider in terms of how that's going to impact your long-term finances. If you want to have children, you have to start planning for that early on. You have to start thinking about these things. Do you want to purchase a house in your future? How much exactly do you want to own? How much do you want to spend on that home? All of these big purchases, these big life events need to be thought out way early on in order to be able to be ready for those when they do arrive. If you just wait until the day you find out you're having a kid, or the week before your dream house comes on the market, you're not really going to be in a good financial position to make those decisions or make that purchase or really have the means to support that child. So you have to take those things into consideration as early as possible. Kind of get a general sense of where you want your life to go. There's nothing wrong with creating a roadmap and then eventually changing that roadmap and making adjustments as needed, but it is important to just start thinking that through, because the more you think about it, the better off you'll be, because you'll have a general sense of a plan of how you want to approach those problems and how you want to accommodate them when it comes to finances. And that's it, guys. That's basically the beginnings of the framework for you getting to that place where you want to be when it comes to retiring and being comfortable financially. This is not something you have to write in stone or stick to 100% with no room to adjust or maneuver. This is just general framework that you're going to put in place, and really it's all about thinking things through and taking that time to just plan a little bit, just to give yourself a little bit of a long-term vision. That's the key here. If you have some kind of long-term vision, some kind of long-term goal in place, then that's all that matters, because then you ultimately have your eye on the prize and you have a general sense of how you need to work and how you need to get there. What are the things that you need to do? What are the steps that you need to take? Whereas if you don't have any kind of plan and then just 15 years from now you decide, I want to retire tomorrow, you might not be in the place you want to be in order to do that. If you have aspirations to become financially independent, if you want to be in a place where you can maybe retire early, retire young, you have to plan. The more planning you do, the better off you'll be, and ultimately there's nothing wrong with that. Planning is okay. Know that you can adjust your plan. Know that you can shift around things and move things over and switch things up. Things don't go your way. Maybe 10 years from now you realize you don't want to buy a house. Well, then that's money that you can move somewhere else. But just having that general plan is never a bad thing. All right, guys, well, that's all I had for this video. If you want to share your plans for the future, go ahead and leave me those in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel or haven't done so already, please take a moment and just click the subscribe button down below, and we'll see you next time.